Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k 8th edition reveal video. Today we will be looking at tactical reserves. So basically guys, reserves have changed fucking loads and they've been nerfed in some ways. Pardon me, but boy, they have been buffed in many others. So let's get straight into it. Basically, this does seem to flip from edition to edition. In the current edition of 40k, you can have your entire army in reserve if you want to. I think you have to have one unit on the table, just so you don't get tabled. But I think, essentially, you can have as much of your army in reserve as you want. Now, in 8th edition, at least half of your units have to start on the board. Okay? And this flips and flops from edition to edition. I'm sure in 6th you had to have a certain number of, I think half your points rounded up had to be on the board. And then I think in 5th you could have as much as you wanted off the table. And you can even charge from like coming in off reserve. It flips back and forth, guys. I honestly think Games Workshop does that to keep sort of players on their toes, because having your whole army off the table is a really powerful strategy, and it's, you know, people buy armies based around that entire strategy. But now you have to have at least half of your units deployed on the table. Okay. Also, now you have to have specific rules that allow units to be held in reserve. So currently, you can have any unit you want held in reserve. Now, what Games Workshop is saying is that it has to have the special rule to allow it to be held in reserve. So a good example for guard would be that your basic guardsmen will have to be deployed on the table, but your scions will have the special rule, like reserves, which will allow them to be put in reserve. So number one, you have to have half your units on the board, and number two, you have to, not every unit can even be placed in reserve. So that's pretty interesting. Let me just have a look and make sure I'm not messing any of this up. No, okay. There's no such thing as deep strike or outflank universal special rules anymore. Okay. And Games Workshop has been very clear that there won't be any universal special rules anymore. Each unit will have its own specific way of deep striking, or entering from reserve, should I say. Okay. So Terminators will have teleport. Scions will have grav shoot. Tyranids will have burrow, for example. Genestealer Cult will have ambush. There won't be a specific, this unit can outflank, this unit can deep strike. Those rules will probably exist, but as a unique rule per unit. So, for example, let's say that Rattlings which can currently outflank, and Orcs and Commandos which can currently outflank. Rattlings will now have, you know, sneaky setup and Scarper as a, you know, I'm making this up, and they'll be able to, in all but name, outflank. And Commandos will have, you know, cunning commando special rule, and they'll also be able to outflank in all but name. So that, just to make it clear, guys, technically there's no such thing as deep strike and outflank, but in reality there is. Okay, but it'll just be a specific way for each army in each unit. So the example that they give is with the Trigon, Subterranean Assault. Now, guys, I'm going to read this rule in its entirety, even though it's quite long, because it is insanely important. Okay, the implications it has for Tyranids is mad. The implications that it has for the wider game is really important. Okay, so Subterranean Assault. During deployment, you can set up a Trigon underground instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the same time, you can set up a Hive Fleet troops unit in the Trigon's tunnel. At the end of any of your movement phases, set up the Trigon anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. If there is another unit in the Trigon's tunnel, set it up at the same time, wholly within 3 inches of the Trigon, and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Any models that you cannot place in this way are destroyed. Guys, this is huge. This is the buff that Tyranids have been looking for, and honestly, it makes them nasty. Okay, let's go through this bit by bit. So the Trigon can be placed in reserve, but rather than scattering, there's no more scatter. You simply choose a point on the battlefield that is 9 inches away from any enemy models, and you place him there. He does not scatter. He does not disappear with a mishap. He just appears. So basically, and this is it. This is implied for a lot of other deep strikers and other units that can do this. It's implied that this is the standard now. So guys, no more scatter on deep strike. Take that as read for pretty much every unit. So you can set up 9 inches away, and you can bring a unit through with you, and importantly guys, it's at the end of any movement phase. That's right, that means turn 1 you will have Trigons in front of you 9 inches away. Reserves no longer come in from turn 2 onwards. They can come in from the very, very beginning of the game. So that's the first bit. Number 1, it doesn't scatter. Number 2, they come in from any turn now. Number 3 is that 9-inch rule, right? That means 2 things. 1, opponents will be within charge distance from turn 1. Okay, they specifically say that you can charge from this. Okay, it is specifically said in the article you can deploy your Trigon from the tunnel and charge with it turn 1. So that's crazy. Turn 1 charges now, guys, confirmed. Also, the bugs that you bring through in the tunnel will also be allowed to charge the turn they pop up. This means, guys, that on turn 1, you could have in front of your guard infantry line a Trigon, which is very possibly likely able to charge you, and a unit of 30 Hormagaunts, a unit of 20 Gene Stealers. Holy shit. So Tyranids of now, imagine Tyranid players bringing in 3 of these things. Imagine just turn 1, 3 Trigons popping up, 3 units of Gene Stealers popping up. Shit, that's insane. That's brutal. That's insane. Hormagaunts, if they still have their bounding leap special rule, which allows them to move, an extra 3 inches, I believe, that makes them really, really likely to get that turn 1 charge. But it's not just about charging, guys. It's about shooting as well. Imagine bringing up, people have used examples of 30 Devil Gaunts, 30 Spine Fist Gaunts, because remember, Spine Fists are currently twin linked. According to the new rules, there's no such thing as twin linked. It just means you'll have 2 shots per Gaunt. That means, I believe, 60 shots right off the bat, turn 1, point blank in your face from Gaunts. Spine Fists haven't been used for a long time by Tyranid players. I'm getting a really big vibe that Spine Fists are going to make a huge comeback. It's absolutely insane. Because they're just insane. They're assault weapons too, Spine Fists. So you can have a unit pop up right in front of the enemy, shoot the ever-living balls out of them with all those Spine Fists, charge what's left over. That was point number 1. Point number 2 is, if we take it as read that you can deploy, that all deep striking units are going to have to stay 9 inches away from the enemy. Okay, let's say that 9-inch rule, which I believe I've read elsewhere, and it's been confirmed on like Warhammer 40k Facebook page, that 9 inches is the new distance you've got to stay away, right? That has some actually really bad implications for Guard and for Militarum Tempestus. Because no longer can you drop down a 5-man flamer squad, a 5-man double flamer squad of Scions. Because the range on the flame template, well, no longer flame template, but flamer, is 8 inches. Which means you'll be out of range. You'll always be out of range. Also, you can no longer do a danger close deep strike with melter guns. You can still deep strike down, and you'll still have melter guns, but you won't be able to take advantage of the melter range, which is, 2d6, pick the highest when it comes to damage. So, it makes deep striking down, or burrowing up, or whatever you want to call it, and then charging really powerful. But it nerfs deep striking down and shooting for a lot of factions. You think about it this way. I know many Blood Angels players that would deep strike down squads of Blood Angels, which would have a flamer and a heavy flamer, and then like some hand flamers, and they just wang down like 5 or 6 or 7 flame templates. Can't do that anymore. So the days of drop and flame are gone, and drop and melter has taken a serious blow. So, crazy. I think that's pretty much it, guys. I've already mentioned that you've got to keep half your units in reserve, and also, I believe any units that haven't been deployed after turn 3 are destroyed now. So currently in 40k, if you have units in reserve and they're struggling to come in, and it gets to turn 4, they come in automatically. Now, if they're not in by turn 4, by the end of turn 3, they're gone. However, I do believe now, guys, that you don't have to roll for your reserves to come in. I believe you can just choose when they come in. So I don't know for sure if that's the case, but I think essentially you can choose to have half your army in reserve, and then you can choose if you want it all to come in turn 1, or you can choose if you want it to come in all turn 2, or if you want to do it really late, you can choose if you want a bit turn 1, bit turn 2, bit turn 3. It's up to you now, but you just choose when your reserves come in. So let's wrap this video up. Let's not keep it going on very long. Tactical reserves have changed massively. Tyranids are going to be... I bet Tyranids will be the king of turn 1 charges. A lot of Tyranid units have got fleet, which allows them to reroll charge distances currently. And a lot of Tyranid units have the ability to jump forward really quickly. So I think we're going to see a lot of Nids. I think because currently Trigon, Morlocks are the go-to Tyranid burrower. I think that Trigons are going to make a big comeback. Games Workshop, it has fluff-wise, it has a bit of a thing for Trigons. Morlocks were like an afterthought, and they've taken centre stage. I think Games Workshop wants to bring back Trigons, and this is the way they're going to do it. Trigons are now a really effective delivery system. So, summary, what does this mean for the Guard? Well, it means that you can expect turn 1 charges from Deep Strike Reserve to be a thing. So we're going to need, I believe, the front rank of Guardsmen. The more reveals that come out, the more I believe this. I believe the front rank of Guardsmen should be conscripts or Guardsmen with 0 to no upgrades. Your front rank, your front wave, you're just going to have to write them off as acceptable casualties. I think there's going to be so many armies out there which are going to do turn 1 charges, turn 1 just massive firepower. I believe the first rank, the first wave of Guardsmen, just accept them as dead. I think you're going to want to start piling on the upgrades on your wave 2, 3 and 4. Okay? So, that's what I believe overall this means for Guard. It's a bit of a kick in the teeth for Militarum Tempestus. We can't drop and flame now. But I guess that just means we're going to have to be mounting up in Taurox Primes, and hopefully Chimeras. I've got my fingers crossed, guys, that I'm going to be able to take Chimeras from Militarum Tempestus. No idea if I can. I'm just got my fingers crossed. Anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you guys think. Are you fearing the swarm now? Is there something I've missed? Maybe Guard will have some really awesome way of delivering people in from reserve. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. I'm really interested because this reserves is a big shift, big change in the meta. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.